You walk up to the door of a room you haven't entered yet, and somehow you already know. There's been a fight. Someone is in a bad mood. A piece of news landed badly. You can feel it through the wall, through the air under the door, through some subliminal channel you've never been able to name. By the time you step inside, your face is already arranged for the room you're about to be in. You are 8 steps ahead of everyone, including yourself, and the people inside have no idea you've been reading them since before they saw you. If you walk into rooms already knowing the temperature, if you can sense an argument brewing before anyone has raised their voice, if you can clock a person's mood from one syllable on the phone, your psychology is running a perceptual system that researchers have only recently started taking seriously. It is not anxiety, even when it sometimes feels like anxiety. It is not paranoia. It is not magic. It is a measurable, trainable form of social processing that the people running it tend to underestimate the most, often because they have been doing it for so long they have forgotten that most people don't. Here's the thing nobody talks about. Most people enter rooms in their own heads. They walk in thinking about what they're going to say, what they want from the meeting, what's on their phone. They register the social temperature only after something obvious has happened. A raised voice, a tense silence, a sentence that lands wrong. By then, they're already responding to a situation that was building for a while. But some people enter rooms reading the room. The walking in itself is a perceptual act. Body language gets parsed before greetings are exchanged. Tone gets analyzed in fragments before words are even completed. The way 2 people are sitting, relative to each other, gets read as a sentence. This is not paranoia. It is a documented form of social cognition that develops most often in people whose early environments required them to predict moods and adjust accordingly. The ability didn't appear out of nowhere. It was trained, often before you can remember training it. And once it's there, it doesn't switch off. You read every room you enter, whether the room needs reading or not. In the 1990s, psychologists Nalini Ambady and Robert Rosenthal published a series of landmark studies on what they called thin-slice judgments. Their research found that humans can make remarkably accurate assessments of someone's personality, mood, or trustworthiness from just a few seconds of observation. Some people, however, were dramatically better at this than others. The high performers weren't smarter on traditional measures. They were running more sensitive perceptual filters. Later work by neuroscientist Marco Iacoboni on the mirror neuron system found that this ability has a biological basis. Some people's mirror systems fire more readily, mapping other people's micro-expressions onto their own internal state at speeds far below conscious awareness. They feel the room before they know what they're feeling. What this channel has been calling quiet intelligence shows up nowhere more clearly than here. Preemptive room reading is basically quiet intelligence applied to social information, slower than conversation, faster than language. Picture this. You're walking up the stairs to your parents' house for a holiday dinner. You haven't seen them in months. You can hear, through the door, the cadence of 2 voices. You can't make out a single word, but you can already tell that one of them is upset, and the other one is deciding whether to mention it. By the time you put your hand on the door handle, you've prepared 3 sentences for 3 different versions of the room you might be walking into. You open the door. You read the first 1.5 seconds of the room. You discard 2 of your prepared sentences. You walk in with the third, perfectly calibrated, and your parents have no idea you've been making decisions about this conversation since the bottom of the staircase. But here's where it gets interesting. The preemptive reading is not a quirk. It's a skill set so refined that most professionals would call it expertise. People who can read a room before they walk in are running pattern recognition on social information at speeds that conscious thought can't keep up with. You don't deliberate, you don't analyze, you arrive at the read. This is the same architecture researchers have studied in expert chess players, ER doctors, and elite negotiators. Your brain has built a library of micro-patterns from years of attentive observation, and it pulls the right pattern instantly when a new situation matches the shape. But there's more going on than just pattern recognition. People who read rooms tend to have unusually high empathic accuracy. which is a measurable trait researchers have documented since the early 2000s. You don't just sense moods, you guess them correctly. The friend who is fine but isn't actually fine. The coworker who is laughing but is in fact deeply annoyed. The partner whose tone shifted half a degree on a Tuesday. You catch all of it, almost without trying. Most people miss most of it, even when they care about the people in front of them. Your accuracy is not standard, it is rare. And here's the kicker. Room readers tend to make better decisions in social and professional situations because they are processing more information than the people around them. You walk into a meeting already knowing who's tense, who's checked out, who's the actual decision maker, and who's pretending to be the decision maker. That kind of situational awareness is why room readers often quietly become the people their teams trust most, even when they're not the loudest in any conversation. The leadership skill is invisible from the outside. From the inside, it's just paying attention, and this shows up in ways you might not even notice. Room readers often de-escalate situations before anyone realizes a situation was about to escalate. You change the subject 1 second before the argument lands. You ask a different question than the one you were about to ask because something in the other person's face shifted. The people around you experience this as you being thoughtful, easy to be around, calming. They rarely realize that what they're experiencing is the output of a perceptual system that's been working since you were small. Now let's be honest. The cost is real. People who read rooms constantly often struggle to actually be in them. You're so busy passing the room that you forget you're allowed to take up space inside it. The hypervigilance can be exhausting. It can also tip into anxiety when the reading never turns off. When you find yourself scanning rooms that are perfectly safe, when the system that protected you as a child becomes the system that drains you as an adult, honoring the skill is not the same as letting it run unchecked. Both can be true at once, but for the people who learn to keep the perception and slowly trust that they're allowed to be in the room they're reading, here's what you actually carry. You have a social skill that people pay leadership coaches thousands of dollars to try to develop. You can spot what's wrong before it becomes a problem. You can adjust your tone before the conversation needs it. You can hold an emotional read of a room while everyone else is still figuring out the small talk. None of this is small. The work isn't to stop reading rooms. The work is to remember that reading the room is what you do, not what you are. There's still a person inside the perception, and that person is allowed to step into the room, not just analyze it from the doorway. There's something quietly remarkable about people who can read a room before they walk in. They tend to be the friend everyone trusts, the colleague who somehow always gets it right, the partner who notices the thing before the thing has happened. They have spent their lives standing 1 step ahead of the conversation, holding it gently, often without anyone realizing they were holding it. If you have spent your life vaguely uncomfortable with the way you scan every room before entering it, this might be the moment to consider that the scanning is not a malfunction. It is a perceptual system that has, very quietly, been protecting you and the people you love for as long as you can remember. It deserves credit. It also deserves rest. Both are true. You're not paranoid, you're not anxious. You're someone whose perceptual system catches what most people walk past, and what you catch has been quietly shaping the rooms you've been in for as long as you've been entering them. There are a lot of patterns in your psychology that nobody has bothered to name yet, and that's exactly what silent awareness exists to do. If you want to keep finding language for the parts of yourself that have felt a little strange, please subscribe. It really does help the channel reach more people who need this.